Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Keirsten Greggs, the founder of Trap Recruiters. Did I get that right?
Yes, Trap Recruiter.
That's good. So how you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been an interesting day, but all in all, pretty good. So can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Yes, I'm Keirsten Greggs. I started recruiting in 2000,
Hmm.
right at the big .com boom here in the DC metro area. Started out in a staffing agency.
Mhm.
And about 10 months in, a few of us were asked to come on board with one of our clients, an up and coming government contractor.
Hmm.
That was an 8A company that did not have a recruiting department. And again, I didn't really know what government contracting was and what 8A contracting was, but I was a pretty with 10 months of experience. I was a pretty experience by that point. I was like, an expert technical recruiter. So, I accepted that position and stayed in the government contracting arena until 2016 when I was laid off.
Hmm.
And I had various roles throughout, going through talent acquisition, staying in corporate, rising up through like the team lead to a manager. And I spent about the last 5 years of my experience as on more of the project management and operation side of TA,
Mhm.
which I loved because I was able to, not have to do the day to day, running a desk and filling positions, but I was still able to do that to keep my skills sharp. I was able to, be on the back end, helping choose systems and doing metrics and compliance and managing the recruiting coordinators, those type of things. So, it was always something new. It was always something fun. So I've been doing that. I started my business in 2017 after doing some contract work. I have two parts to Trap Recruiter. One side is the talent acquisition consulting. So I do anything from recruiting, filling positions to training, doing webinars, to helping people with their process improvement. I do help people pick systems as well, help organizations. I work mostly with small to mid-sized companies that either don't have a full recruiting team, or like I said, they're trying to augment some staff or fill in some gaps, or even again improve their process or something. And then I have a career coaching side of my business, because that was part of the things that I did when I was in corporate America. When contracts were descoping, I was the one that helped folks get their resumes together or contacted other companies to talk about moving folks to other companies who had similar skill sets, or even moving folks internally, doing hiring manager training, that kind of stuff. So um, I love TA, and I'm going to continue to do that for as long as they allow me to.
Well, that's great. Sounds like you have a solution for both the employer and the employee end of TA, correct?
Yeah, and I didn't decide to become an entrepreneur. I think it was kind of decided for
Hmm.
me. But what I found is that when I was on my job search, having been employed for so long, having been out of the job searching arena from like really robustly, it made me start to see that a lot of the things that I was holding on to, a lot of the things that I was combating and saying these things aren't true because of the recruiting teams that I worked with and the recruiting teams that I was responsible for training and,
Mhm.
getting up to speed, like those stereotypes were true.
Mhm.
And I was I was feeling a little bad, and as a job seeker, knowing what the process is, knowing how recruiters behave, knowing how recruiters review candidates and moving through the process, I just started to coach people
Mhm.
on doing a better job, and it just kind of fell into I just kind of fell into it. And that wasn't even something I selected. I was always, people will say, can you review my resume?
Mhm.
Sure. But again, I didn't want to be a resume writer. That's a small part of my job, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was doing those things on for free, or as ad hoc, and I was just like, why don't you do this for real? And I bridge the gap. I tell people I bridge the gap between the job seeker and organizations. And
And
it's been working for me.
so what do you think you spend more of your time on, the job seeker or the organization now?
I think it depends on the time of year.
Hmm.
Um, and now with the pandemic, I spent the beginning part recruiting heavily. And now, excuse me. And now I think I'm getting a lot more folks who are ready to get back into really searching for jobs. So I am getting a lot of requests for people to help them with their job search.
So very good. So you have, I mean, I'm assuming you have experience with remote employment now, since you're a solopreneur, I assume, or do you have a small staff?
Yes. No, I'm a solo, and I've been working from home for 3 years. I had a large contract, or I had a contract with a large company that was a little bit over a year that ended at the beginning of COVID. And I worked from home. I worked remotely 100%, but we had a great arrangement where even though I was full time, they knew that I was running my business. They allowed me to continue to, do the stuff that I was doing, go speak at universities and
Mm,
go. I wasn't competing with them in terms of recruiting. I wasn't recruiting for other companies. I was, again,
mm,
more heavily focused on the career coaching aspect of it. But when that shifted, companies were now coming to me to say, hey, can you come and talk to us about these things? Talk to us about remote work. Talk to us about, we're going to have to lay some folks off. Can you do a workshop and things like that? So, organizations have been doing, or companies, I should say, employers have been doing, coming to me more so to help with outsourcing as well.
and so, I mean, obviously the pandemic increased remote work immensely, but did you notice that it was already on the uprise before COVID?
Um, I think because of where I was in my business and getting brand recognition, I think that had more to do with it than the actual pandemic.
Hmm, I see. But I mean, before that, I'm assuming before you were a contractor, you were also, I'm assuming, we're going into an office every day, right?
Again, I hadn't gone into an office for 3 years.
I
Yeah,
meant before
I
that.
was working. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I had a mix of work from home and work in the office, but I liked being in the office because that's where people were. I had that, that camaraderie, and the team was there. I
Mm,
got to see my friends every day, and
mm.
spend time after work. Recruiters love to spend time after work. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, kind of like salespeople, I would say, right?
Yes, yes.
So, what do you think is the future of remote employment, and what do you think can be done differently to make it more effective?
There needs to be more trust. I mean, I see that a lot of employers are more reluctant to allow their staff to work 100% remotely. And there were a lot of hiccups, and I'm still seeing them. I saw a news article the other day about an employer who requires their employees when they're on their Zoom calls to stand up and like make sure they have shoes on. Like, it's ridiculous things like that. I do something what I call a business mullet. So I get dressed only from where you can see what you can see. I'm a yoga pants, sweatpants type of young lady. I don't get dressed up to sit at home in my office. And I used to go from this older school mindset that if you were dressed up, you would be more productive and you would do more things. So I really feel like it depends on who my audience is, like who I'm
Mhm.
going to be in front of that day, what I decide to put on. I do think that's one of the things. There's not a lot of trust in, allowing people to be adults. I think there's way too many Zoom meetings that could have been phone calls. The same way when we were working, in physical buildings, there were a lot of meetings that could have been emails.
Mhm.
Now there are a lot of phone calls that are becoming Zoom calls, and it's more a matter of people just want to keep an eye on you and they just want to know what you're doing at all times. There's a lot of I know that I get feedback that people feel like people are intruding in their space. They feel like there's a
Mm,
lot of there's intrusion, and
yeah.
that and again, I think it all goes back to trust. But when you have managers who are not that confident in their own ability to manage their staff, I think that's where we start to come into problems. I do think it will get easier. I've been through situations where my contractors for the companies I worked for were furloughed because they were government employees, things like that. But we always kind of knew when the timing for like when things were going to come back. We were able to prepare. Unfortunately, for COVID, we did not prepare for this. I don't think anyone knew how long it was going to be. So we don't have a plan for how we're going to fix this. And some companies just didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have the bandwidth. Everyone doesn't have the same opportunity. Everyone doesn't have the same access to be remote. They don't have a place to sit and work every day. I have a home office, but everyone doesn't have that. Everyone doesn't have a space. You got kids at home, you have partners and siblings, roommates, people living with you that are eating up bandwidth at the same time. So it's a lot of things that we're going to have to make adjustments on going forward. I encourage people to give themselves a little bit more grace. I was doing phone interviews with people, but they were sitting in their cars because that was the only place where they were alone and where they had, and that's not a big deal for me, but I do, again, I get feedback from some recruiters who are like, oh, that's so unprofessional. This guy was, in the closet, sitting in the closet doing an interview, or, there was a noise behind them, and I'm just not that.
Yeah,
I don't care about that kind of stuff anymore.
it's
not a big deal for me.
That person went to the trouble to make sure that he was in a quiet area for the interview, right?
I
That's
agree.
actually positive.
Again, I've noticed that I had some more things that I needed to adjust. I'm a huge diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging advocate all the time. Like, I'm always thinking about that, but now, like, I'm thinking about more things. I'm not just thinking about those visual things. I'm thinking about things, like I said, like access and, how good am I being at respecting people's time and respecting their space? Do they even have access? Does this need to be a video? Can we just talk on the phone? Can we just send an email back and forth? Can we text? Like, there's a lot of adjustments I'm making.
And is this part of your coaching that you give to the prospective applicants?
I do. And now what I have found is that people are, ashamed isn't the right word, but like, people aren't that forthcoming. Like, I need to know. I've told this story on another podcast where I had a gentleman who was coming for an interview. And back then, when I was recruiting, we went to every interview for our candidates. Like, we actually went and met them when I was working in the staffing agency. So while the position that the person was interviewing for was in the city, so public transportation was available, but I worked out in this, our office was out in the suburbs, and they couldn't get to us. So I met this young man at the McDonald's, yeah. So there were things like that, that I had to take into account. Like, again, everybody doesn't have internet access.
I know, it's amazing. I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley, so that's hard for me to imagine, but I know it is real. And we have companies that just give it away for free, so it's a little So what is the story behind Trap Recruiters? First of all, how did you come up with that name? You already told us a lot about what you do, but what is your inspiration?
So that came from one of these Facebook tests. I was looking for a name for my individual blog. I was moving off of a multi-contributor blog, and I wanted to have my own blog, and I didn't have a name for my blog. So it was going to be called Confessions of a Black Recruiter. Like, and I'm horrible at nomenclature, so you have to give me some slack there. But I'm doing a Facebook test, and one of the questions was, if you were famous, what would you be known for? And my friend said, trap recruiting. And I said, what? And it stems from a t-shirt that I have. I love graphic tees that says, I love God and trap music. And trap music is hip hop. It's a form of music. And trapping is drug dealing. And I'm not a drug dealer, but you know, there's some parallels there. And then I just made trap into an acronym and I built my brand around it. So trap actually stands for trusted, relationship builder, accountable, and proactive. And it's all of the things that I want to bring back into the recruiting life cycle, all the things that I feel we've gotten away from. That's just where it came from. And again, it's become this whole thing. It's become, you know, that brand it's attracting the people that I'm meant to reach.
Interesting. Because I was kind of curious about that. It's like there wasn't anything that I could figure out, you know, that was obvious. So, well, thank you. So, the current situation, you know, with the ongoing pandemic, it caused everyone to go remote back in March. You'd been in business for about 3 years. You were remote, but did that cause any real problems for your customers, both the employee and the applicant side?
Yeah. So on the employer side, again, I lost some business because they lost business. On the employee side, it was a matter of like, what do I do? You know, like, how do I tell these people that I don't have a computer? I was using my work laptop, you know, like, or I only have, you know, good service between this hour and this hour. You know, like there were things like that that I was having to adjust to and deal with. It was difficult for me because while I worked from home, like I was part of a professional club that I could go to, you know. I worked in coffee shops and Barnes and Noble, you know, like I had freedom to move about the way that I wanted. And that hit me hard because, and I know that probably sounds, you know, very elitist, maybe, I don't know, but like that hit me hard that I just, and recruiters are very gregarious. Recruiters, you know, and me in particular, I feed off people's energy, and having to do presentations and, you know, do audience stuff and, you know, do keynote speak and webinars and things from, you know, and not be in front of people, you know, like having to figure out how to connect with folks just on screen, you know, that was a huge thing for me. Because I don't like being on camera as much as I like being in the mix. And I mean, like being like with people, being able to connect with people in person. So I miss that a lot. I still, you know, feel a little bit isolated at times. Like I said, I still don't move about the way that I would like. I did do one conference in person and I had a lot of anxiety leading up to it. And I talked to my friends for about 2 weeks and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, do I do this? Do I say no? Because it was in July and we were still pretty thick into the, you know, people were still not going out and it was at a hotel by the airport. And I was like, do I do this? Like, am I going to get sick? You know, like, is this going to be okay? But I got through it. It's been a, again, for me, that not having that personal physical connection has been challenging.
Yes, well, I agree. I mean, I think in my case, it was more the social side because I was used to working from home. And I kind of, some days I like getting out and other days it's kind of nice to just hang out at home all day and right.
Yeah.
But I'm a geek. So we tend to just like to have a nice computer and a internet connection and we're good.
Right. But that's the thing. Like, I think I was taking for granted, like, again, like how much freedom I really had, you know, like when I wanted to see people, you know, like there were days, like you just said, like I'll wake up like, oh, I feel like seeing people and I would go, you know, I would go to people. But now I was like, you guys want to get on house party? You want to do a Zoom call real quick? Like what's going like?
No, I know. Yeah, there's actually 4 Starbucks within like a 2-mile radius of me, I think. So so I would do the same thing. I would go to Starbucks and just hang out there for a few hours, sometimes with the library. Sometimes I would just go down by the bay and because this was my internet connection, right?
Very nice.
So, well, finally, there's companies like Gaper that help develop, build, and scale products. you actually help companies recruit. How do you see that going in the future with companies, now that COVID's hit, do you think they're going to be more open to recruiting people from anywhere in the world?
I do think they will. Obviously, with the industry that I came from, the industry that I'm most closely tied to, there are restrictions there because of the type of work that's being done. But even in that sense, like I was recruiting people that had security clearances. Well, they figured it out. They figured out how to have people work from home. Even those that were used to being someplace that was restricted. So I do think it's going to open up. It's going to open up a broader and a more global recruiting model. I hope it does, and I hope people are more open to it. We're here saying that there is a higher unemployment rate right now. Obviously, it's pretty high, but there are also a lot of jobs too, and we still have companies saying, "Well, there's a talent shortage," and I'm like, "No, you're just not. You're just not looking. You're just not looking in the right places."
And I do think it will eventually come back to normal. I think this is, no one expected this, right? So. So hopefully it will get back to normal. And I think businesses are just waiting to see. They're waiting to open up because I think they're ready to go.
Well, I do know a good number of folks that are in the HR and recruiting in this fields that are back to work.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great.
And they have, they're either on a like an A/B schedule where they work 3 days in, and then other people work 2 days in the office, and they back and forth, or it's limited staff certain day, and they're more spread out. So I think people are getting back to work, but I don't think that anyone who feels uncomfortable and is not ready, or that has that's high risk, I don't think they should be forced to go back into the office if they don't want to.
No, obviously.
and I also think about the folks who do, like, it's not just, if you work in an office, it's not just the employees, of your company, but it's the staff that maintains the building as well. Like I think about them. I've worked on larger campuses. I worked on the old AOL campus. Before we had, 3 buildings connected by, a little thing. So it's like a college campus pretty much. And, multiple cafeterias, there's places where, you could go to the store, get things made, the folks that clean the building, the security staff, like they all work for different companies, for different contractors. And now they're limited,
yes.
Yeah. So I think about those people too. And where are they going to work if we don't go back?
I know it's hopefully it will all straighten out soon. Hopefully they will have a really good vaccine and distributed quickly, and we can get back to normal. Wouldn't that be nice? And then you can, when you want to go out and meet people, you can just do it.
Yes.
That's the goal. All right. January 1, let's do it. All right. November 1.
No.
Well, I think December 1 is natural. Let's shoot for December 1st.
Okay. December.
Well, Keirsten, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and good luck with your recruiting job.
Thank you.
Company, I should say. Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.